Marfugal. Marfugal. Am I saying that right, y'all? Marfugal News, Marfugal TV. I don't know. It's a very hard word for me to say. Hopefully, I got it right this time. Either way, let's go running. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for watching, for listening, for shooting a thumbs up, and for hitting subscribe on the channel. It is truly appreciated. Yeah, I was kind of blown away by getting a mention over there. I guess you never know who's watching this stuff, right? This is the rundown. This is your show, the community show, where we run down the live chat and the replay crowd comments. You know, it's our afternoon show. This morning, we were talking about the escalation in the Middle East. Of course, the fact that Joe Biden is going over to visit because it's not like old Joe's got anything else to do but eat ice cream. You know, the country's humming along perfectly, right? Not so much. We were talking about soldiers being put on notice, the potential to be deployed to the Middle East, and we were talking about ammo shortages as well. So let's jump into the live chat first. Savage Lee says, "Oh yeah, the Middle East is popping." Then he added a few things that I really can't say here on the platform, otherwise I will get banned for life. Savage Lee, you're not kidding. The Middle East is popping. The Middle East is always popping to a degree because of all the different ideologies, and I mean it's typically a war zone anyway, but not like we're seeing now. Things have really escalated, and in much the same way that just prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, I said, man, there's a lot of pieces moving around the board, a lot of stuff being stacked up and ready to go. We're now seeing that in the Middle East. Oki Khan, they still haven't figured out why no one wants to enlist. Absolutely. Oh, let me count the reasons. Who would want to enlist in the military right now? You know, here we are in October 2023. Really, what is the selling point for joining Joe Biden's military? It used to be an honorable profession, and it should be an honorable profession. It used to be tradition. Like there was a the vast number of enlistees came from military households. But again, there's so many reasons. The military has went woke. They've pushed a lot of propaganda. They've dropped the bar, so to speak, to let a lot of people in that maybe shouldn't be in the military to begin with. Um, this country's turned its back on the idea of patriotism, love of country. The military's just not respected in the same way that it used to be. But honestly, I think a lot of it for me has to do with the treatment of veterans. You know, our young people see this. They see how the VA hospitals, what kind of nightmare that is. You're promised things up front, and the government just has that, in my opinion, not delivered on these promises. And then they see us constantly in war, constantly deploying assets, and there's just this vibe in the air, Oki Khan, that something big is getting ready to kick off. And I'm sorry, but even as a young person, I would not be signing up and taking 35 or 40 grand because I would be worried I wouldn't be alive long enough to spend it. So yeah, recruiting problems indeed. Prepper trucking. When the world sees we have a weak military and we have become a weak nation, he went on to say, I don't think most people understand what is gonna happen, like all of the bad things that are gonna happen once the rest of the world figures out we're weak. The thing is, I like the comment, Chad, but I think many nations have already figured this out. I think we have a knack for getting tied up into endless wars that we never seem to win. You know, we dump a lot of money in, we try and nation build, and then we exit the building, so to speak. And I think Russia's using this right now. The blueprint is already out there. Russia invaded. They knew that the United States was gonna come to Ukraine's aid, and I don't think they cared because they believe, they can win the long game. They believe America's going to get tired of that conflict and pivot somewhere else, and we're seeing that in real time. And so a lot of our enemies just have this mindset now, all we gotta do is wait them out. They come in with the nicest ships and the scariest planes that we've ever seen, but they're not here for long. And so, militarily speaking, that's a weak position. I think countries have figured that out, brother. Dirt track, send the blue hairs. Well, couldn't have put it better myself, right? And they're going to be sent. If we see a draft, a lot of these people there was a major demonstration here recently, pro-Palestinian demonstration in Michigan. Thousands of people flying the Palestinian flag. And I'm like, well, you might actually get your chance to go over there and fight because again, that target age group, that's where they're going to begin to cut first. And a lot of these folks that are indoctrinated, they're going to get their wish. They're going to be sent off to fight. And as I said I think it was last week, it's not going to be a battle of bumper stickers and waving flags. I mean, it's going to be the real deal at that point. So yeah, many of the blue hairs, along with many patriots, may get sent over into this thing. Rocky Stone, if that's your real name, brother, that's fantastic. You can do so many things with Rocky Stone. The 2,000 that are being sent are medical personnel. I haven't seen that, but if that's accurate, as I tried to reply in chat this morning, but again, it was humming along. Um, if we're sending only medical personnel, those 2,000 that have been put on notice, that's very, very indicative of a huge ground war coming by Israel. That's Israel telling the United States, we're getting ready to go in widespread on the ground. Here are the numbers. And this would be the United States saying, well, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need medical professionals over here. We already know Israel was getting their hospitals ready and things. So, I mean, it really just seems like something big is getting ready to go down, as in we ain't seen nothing yet over there. I think Israel is softening Gaza up as much as possible. And there's a lot of outrage over that, but they're doing that, I think, because they're getting ready to go in boots on ground, door to door. They're going to clear the tunnels out, or they think they are at least. Rabid Coyote, winter is coming and I'm prepared. Winter is coming and it's going to be brutal for the non preppers because there are already shortages. I mean, we don't need to go back down this road again about the inflation and stuff like this, but it's not going to correct itself. The further along we get into cold weather and the further along we get into war, the worse things are going to become here at home. Um, Jamie Tierney, I pronounced your name correctly. Are you proud of me? Joe goes on vacation when our states are in need. Joe is on a permanent vacation. He's on a weekend at Bernie's type vacation. But you're absolutely correct. Every time something goes down, he has a private dinner at the White House where elites are at and they're barbecuing, or he goes to a retreat somewhere and he's playing golf and probably riding his bike with his helmet on, wrecking it all over the place. He's not a great president. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, right? Controversial statement. Joe Biden is a terrible president. He's not very hands on. He doesn't seem to care about the people that he supposedly represents on either side of the aisle. The man just doesn't seem to care. Um, he promises on the campaign trail in between stuttering and falling off stages and stuff. He promised a lot. He's going to fix our infrastructure. He's going to rebuild the economy. He's going to take care of the inner cities and they're going to become utopias. But none of this stuff ever happens. They're just talking points on the campaign trail. Joe Biden is Joe Biden. McBean made an excellent point in chat this morning, and it's something we all should consider. He said, we won't see a draft until after the presidential election. And to me, this makes a lot of sense because Joe Biden wants to be reelected, right? He wants to be back in the White House, or he claims he wants to be back in the White House. So having a draft prior to the presidential election looks really, really bad on a political candidate. Hey, put me back in the White House so I can continue drafting young people. The scary part about that, McBean, is if once he's back in the White House, if that were to happen, then he has nothing to lose. Then he could just have a draft and people would get over it. You know what I'm saying? Excellent point. Days. If there's no list, we were talking about I think it was 5 million new gun owners within the span of around a year. Day says if there's no list, because we're told there's no list, how do they know how many first-time buyers there are? Because there's a list. They're going to tell you there's no list and that they don't track this. It's just a background check. It's an informality. You're going to jump through the hoops and then you get your firearm. Excuse me. But the reality is, of course, there are lists. And every time you go through that process, they want to know exactly who has what. They also discourage people from buying ammunition with cash. They want to know where this stuff is going. So, yeah, there's absolutely a list. And when it comes to the government, I don't trust a whole lot that they tell us up front in the first place. Now, jumping over to the replay crowd, the folks that caught it after the fact, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. This name, however, Ario Hobie. Some of these names, again, I have trouble pronouncing Marfugal. So Ario Hobie threw me for a loop. Says, don't worry about how history sees you. Trust your moral compass. So the UN of all entities, the UN is trying to preach to Israel, be careful. History is going to judge you. Can you imagine if history sat down to judge the UN? They're supposed to be peacekeepers and they're constantly tied up in wars. But I digress. Ario Hobie is saying, trust your moral compass. Do what you believe is right. Have that moral compass, have that line in the sand. This is right. This is wrong. And act accordingly. And he's saying, I think that Israel is doing just that. Bob, I'm going to attempt it. Bob Stovsky. Woo. Draft all politicians' daughters and sons first and send them to the front lines. This comment showed up a few times this morning in the replay crowd. And it's a comment that I can get on board with. There were two that popped up a lot. Send the illegals first. Hey, you're over here, you're squatting. Few people said, hey, go around, get all these pro-Palestine protesters and say it's your lucky day. You've just won a free plane ticket to the Middle East. Here you go. But to Bob's point, draft all politicians' daughters and sons first. Wouldn't that be something? But everybody watching this knows that's not going to happen. Those people, those sons and daughters are sons and daughters of the elites. The same rules do not apply. They are not going to fight. They want our sons and daughters to go and fight. But I like where your heart's at. Down the rabbit hole with D. There's a ton of missing ammo in the USA in 2023 alone. So yeah, there apparently is. I didn't realize it was a huge problem because anytime you start talking about ammo shortages, creators will jump on it and they'll get into, well, there's plenty of primers, there's plenty of this. They'll talk to industry insiders and things, and they will convince you there's no ammo shortage. Or you'll see people posting comments saying, I'm surrounded by ammo. Every store I walk into, The ammo is stacked to the rafters, but I am of the mindset when there's a lot of smoke, there's a fire somewhere. And all week, I've continued to see, for the past 7 or 8 days, actually, people posting comments, "Hey, there are holes on the shelf. I can't find this caliber. I can't find ammo. The ammo's gone. It's on back order." And that's what made me do a deep dive into it to find out what was going on, because when people from different parts of the United States are reporting the same problem, then there's a problem somewhere. That's my mindset anyway. Briar Patch, there's never been a more urgent need to prep than right now. Can you imagine being on the other side of this huge desk of mine? I have Access and Allies stacked up on the other side and books, just so y'all know. A little behind the scenes there. Can you imagine somebody being on the other side of the desk trying to debate and make an argument as to why you should not be prepping right now? With all of the war, with these obvious shortages here and there, with the inflation, with the economy, with the fact that we just went through a pandemic and we saw firsthand people panicking. Can you imagine somebody making an argument? You don't need to prep. The government will take care of you. There's plenty to go around. What are you doing? Don't do that. It's just a ridiculous argument. I mean, that's a clown argument. You absolutely should be prepping. Now, again, you should do it with purpose. You shouldn't do it out of panic. I wouldn't, stack toilet paper to Mars or anything. I still don't understand the toilet paper thing, but whatever. Stack with purpose and do it as you can afford to do it. It's a long-term deal. What is that book about the rabbit and the tortoise and the hare, something like that, right? Spoiler alert, the turtle wins. The turtle's slow, but the turtle is methodical. And the turtle, son, does not burn out. They chip away a little bit every day, and that's what you have to do with prepping. Excellent comment. Hazerone. I don't know what to think or expect anymore. I think that's a fair comment, and I think there are probably other people at Prepper Nation that feel the same way. You wake up, some mornings I wake up and I'm like, you know, because I do the rounds everywhere from Fox, CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, Sky News, InfoWars, Washington Examiner. I'm going all over the place. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And some mornings I pick the phone up or get on the computer and I'm like, do I really want to do this today? Like, what am I walking into? I'm not one of these people that stay connected to the phone all evening or whatever. So usually at a certain time, there's a tech cutoff for me, and I literally have no idea what I'm walking into the next morning. But it's typically bad. It's bad news in the news, for anybody who doesn't know. Uh, it just is. I don't know what to think or expect anymore. I'm with you on that to a degree, and I think a lot of people are. Just continue to prep. Just continue to handle your business, control what you can control, and understand a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is out of our control. I can't stop them, the US government. I can't call them up and say, "Don't move the strike carrier groups over into a bad position. Don't send troops over into the Middle East. Don't stockpile troops over in Poland." They're not gonna listen to me, right? Suits will probably show up at the door. But what I can do is I can pay attention, I can anticipate. If I see troops moving, I know this is gonna lead to, ammo shortages, fuel shortages, and things like that, and I can prep accordingly. Scott Beto, trying to stay grounded here, trying to be the voice of reason is the point he's making. 2,000 troops seems pretty small. 2,000 troops does seem pretty small until you factor in the sailors that we already have over in the area, and then you take a look at something like the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War started very small as well. And again, it became a vacuum very quickly, and we got sucked into it like quicksand. And once you're sucked in so far, you have no choice as a country but to continue to support the war and send more bodies. That's the fear on my end anyway, Scott. Ivan the Terrible ordered ammo 2 weeks ago. It hadn't showed up. So he called this company, and the caliber that he had ordered is on back order. And they basically told him, "We have no idea when the stuff's gonna be available." They offered to do a refund, and he was just like he left a comment, "Shake my head." Like, what do you do at that point? You know, you sold it to me online, you didn't have it, now it's on back order, and I have no idea when I'm getting this ammo. 13 Bravo. Gen Z Gen Z is gonna fold up like a cheap lawn chair. Um, we often talk about how Gen Z is not exactly as tough as the generation that stormed Normandy, right? The beaches of Normandy. Some of them are gonna become tough through baptism under fire because they're not gonna have much choice in the matter. A lot of them are going to fold up like cheap lawn chairs. If we see a draft full blown after the election, getting to McBean's point again for a second, if we see that, I fully expect a lot of these Gen Zers to just like be protesting out in the streets, crying on TV. I don't want to go. All of this rigmarole. But we'll find out how tough they are and what they're made of because somebody wants war awfully bad. And guess what, Gen Z? You're on the hook for it. So keep voting Democrat, right? JRC Homestead, Texas. I'm seeing some limits on food and over-the-counter medication. Thank you for leaving that comment. I've not seen any limits on food. What I'm seeing on food on my end, at least, price. You know, they're pricing you into a corner, at least me and Miss Nation, right? To where we have to buy less and less. So it's the same thing essentially as a limit. Can't buy 2 of this anymore because you can't afford to buy 2 of this anymore. The over-the-counter medications, I've not seen any limits imposed, but I'm seeing a lot of empty spots where stuff should be. You know, Sudafed is one example, Robitussin and stuff like this. Some of this is going to be due to the fact that it's getting colder, people are getting sick, and they're buying it up. But I think there are a lot of smart people as well that are stockpiling this stuff, and we have quite a bit on hand, enough to go a couple of years because it don't last forever, you know. But it is what it is. If y'all are seeing any limits on food or over-the-counter medications, please let me know in the chat. And I appreciate you being here. And sorry about banging up Marfugel's name this morning. I think it's the second time I've done it now. I really need to shoot him an email and say, "Sir, I apologize." My southern drawl is bad, son. But anyway, I appreciate everybody being here. Y'all take care. God bless.